Anyway, we're on.
Oh, good.
It actually was perfect last week because I just started it while we were talking about Major League, and it just kind of flowed right in.
That's what I was hoping you would do.
This one was not so good.
Well, we don't have Kyle here.
He is the glue that holds the podcast together. I was thinking we should get him to do this for an entire podcast. We should have him just be Zach Zaidman and just laugh as loud as he can at everything, no matter how stupid it is.
I think we should do.
I wouldn't do that to poor Kyle. He has actual things to add. He doesn't have to do that.
When I'm coaching improv, if someone's kind of steamrolling other players, I'll make the players that are getting steamrolled be the only ones that are allowed to like initiate any kind of like gifts or scenes or anything and make the other people react to them. I think we should do a whole podcast with Kyle. He has to bring up every topic, every talking point, and we just get to react to what he says.
Well, it's not like he can't. He's just.
That's a good point.
He's like he's too deferential to us.
Yeah,
he lets us just ramble.
If he only
knew the listeners at home are like, would you shut those two up?
Yeah. If he only knew what shambles our lives are in, he wouldn't look up to us so much.
Well, he obviously was raised by nice people.
Mm-hmm.
So he's very polite.
He is very polite. He's a Wisconsin boy.
And that cheese curd farm that he grew up on in northern Wisconsin.
Well, hello, Andy.
Well, hi. How are things? Still celebrating the great road trip the Cubs went on last week?
Yeah.
They won a game.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah, the sweep in St. Louis didn't feel too good. But that does feel good for them to play terribly for a little while and still be not out of contention. Remember when they would just be like eliminated mathematically from contention and I would throw a party?
Like every year before 2016.
Exactly. Well, 2015 was a good year.
That's true. When one losing streak would doom the entire season.
It wasn't even one losing streak. Remember in 2004 when one pitch doomed the entire season? Those were dark times. So
I ran to the mailbox today, all excited.
Oh my God, are you working your way up to the end of the driveway?
Yeah, I did. That's what I threw up on my shoes.
Your big charity race coming up.
It's the driveway K. It's not even no, today was the day that John Greenberg's book came out, and I saw on Twitter that he sent copies of it to people, and so I went down to get mine, and I'm still waiting.
I haven't even checked my mail yet.
Even though I'm in the book. Apparently I will have to buy a copy of it.
Why are you in his book? What is his book about, first of all? I assume the Cubs.
Yes, his book is called If These Walls Could Talk.
How did you just get feedback from your headset? Out of curiosity.
I think I hit it with my beer.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Should I tap it? Tap the mic periodically? Yeah. No, that's not annoying, is it?
Okay, if these balls could talk, is that
if these balls could talk? It could be the name of it because it's about stories from the locker room.
Oh, why did he not call it?
And it's all about Hector Rondon spraying foot spray on Anthony Rizzo's nads before a World Series game.
Can you see if you can get Greenberg on this, and can we devote an entire hour to grilling him on why he didn't?
No, that's part of what I want to get. I wanted to look at the book because I think he needs to be like our first real guest, and he could pitch the book, and then we can talk about it. Okay. Now, I did not know. I knew he was writing this. He had emailed me and asked me if I wrote about a couple of things. One of them was the Nomar trade.
And I remember that.
So I went and dug up. I gave him a couple of links.
History or whatever. I loved your oral history to the Nomar trade. It was very well crafted.
So I gave him a couple of links, and the chapter that he excerpted on The Athletic, which of course you don't subscribe to, so you couldn't read, was that
That's chapter. Why I don't subscribe. I don't like paywall.
And so I'm in it at the very end.
Oh, very good.
But yeah, it's called If These Walls Could Talk, and it's stories. I think he said he starts maybe that year, 2003 or 2004, and he goes up to current day. And he interviewed Cubs, and so he interviewed like Jim Hendry and probably not Dusty He interviewed a bunch of people and got them to tell stories or expand on stories, things we knew that happened that we didn't ever get like the full story of. One of them,
that's
the
cool. That's
made me think of it, is one of them apparently is that meltdown in Shea Stadium where Ryan Dempster came in to try to get the save and couldn't, and then LaTroy came in and Victor Diaz. First they tied it, Victor Diaz tied it, and then some other asshole.
Wasn't it Diaz? That's what made it even worse. Wasn't he actually Victor Diaz?
Well, Pat, I'm sure, said it.
I remember
Wilson Contreras.
I know I've said this on the podcast, maybe not this podcast, maybe our previous podcast before, but I remember being in Notre Dame Stadium watching Purdue just march up and down the field. I think it was probably Orton was probably the quarterback at that time, and they were just marching. They had beaten Notre Dame a couple times in a row. Yeah. None of that might be factually accurate, but I know.
Oh, I know it was a college football Saturday because I was stuck in the press box at Rock Valley College.
Oh boy!
And just hitting reload on my laptop. I was like, "Oh, good, the Cubs are going to win," and then hitting it again and seeing that they were tied. I'm like, "How? That's impossible!" And of course, it wasn't impossible.
Now I have to look this up because now I think I remember maybe everyone was happy around me, and I was annoyed with them because Notre Dame was getting, or because the Cubs, because LaTroy, I was getting updates on my phone. And this is 2004. Oh no, Notre Dame also got waxed 41-16. I was right. They were getting crushed by Purdue as well. And that was Kyle Orton just ripping up Notre Dame.
That was even pre-neckbeard. So couldn't even use that as an excuse.
So those were that is a very cool concept for a book. I would say rip out the middle 6 or 7 chapters so you don't have to relive.
Start in 2015 and work your way back.
I would say read 2003, maybe 2004. There was probably some interesting stuff. Skip everything for those.
I would guess it doesn't spend a lot of time on the Mike Quade year. Just a guess.
I always forget that he was I think when he got hired, I tweeted out that he looks like the default creative manager from MLB The Show. Like if you just didn't make any modifications and you just clicked. Oh my God! I mentioned a tweet that oh no, you mentioned a tweet of yours earlier, I think.
Yeah.
But if I beat you to that,
not actually on the area.
Okay. So I never know when you start these things. So that was one of my proudest moments that the Quade just looks like, or like manager number 1 of the managers that were in MLB The Show.
Well, and when you if you want to build him, then you have to go in and do the embarrassing thing where you have to delete the eyebrows.
Hair zero.
It was funny because after we talked about Moneyball last week, I pulled some clips and put them on the blog page for the podcast, and I found the Scott Hatteberg where they show up at his house and try to convince him to sign with the A's. And then I found they have the home run. So they'll all put that one in. And I remembered my one quibble with Moneyball was that they didn't make the guy who played Mike Quade completely shave himself. He's got actual hair. It's like, come on, man. At least put a bald cap on him.
Hit him with a blowtorch. It'll grow back.
It might not have been worth it for the poor guy because really all you do is when they're all jumping up and down, you see Quade and whatever number he was for like a split second, but you can tell he's got brown hair. It's like, well, we know that's not him.
I would say, how many people that aren't Cubs fans, because the A's didn't know who he was, and let's say you're not Cubs fans and you weren't a big enough fan of, I don't even know who he played for during his playing career. How many people do you think actually know who Mike Quade is? Because I barely remember that he was a Cub, and I was blogging daily about them when he was a Cub manager. And I have a website, well, not really right now, but called Hire Jim Essien. Yeah. So I know from.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's the winningest manager in Iowa Cub history. He was there for 30 years. So,
but you would think Iowa Cub fans are Cub fans. So
you would think they would know. So at least they knew who Mike Quade was.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Those are Cub fans.
How aerodynamic he was. Oh, your question is how many non-Cub fans know who he is? Mm-hmm. None. Not even if he coached for your team for years. You don't know.
Do you think the director of Moneyball knows who Mike Quade is? He had to literally cast. Well, he didn't cast him. I'm sure his casting director is. Do you think the casting director of Moneyball knows who Mike Quade is?
No, because they would have cast. They would have cast the guy who plays No Ho Hank on Barry, because he also is completely hairless. And that would have been great. They could have made him an actual character with the fake Russian accent and those
are the only two options. Either him or
the temp buddy.
Either him or the guy, the head agent from Fringe. I know he's black, but he's the second most hairless man that I can think of off the top of my head.
He's an actor. He could play Mike Quaid.
Yeah.
You just need the essence. Build. You don't have to look like him, especially. You just need the essence of Quaddy.
Agreed.
You got to give everybody hockey nicknames and stick to it forever and never call anybody by their real name.
Painter, Wooder, Pryor. Pryor didn't work, and he wasn't there anymore. But
speaking of Mark Pryor.
Oh, good segue.
So the Cubs are busy. This was day 2 of the draft.
I've decided doing my own segues really well is not challenging enough. So I'm just going to set you up for really good segues and see if you pick them up.
Well, no, I thought that's what you did, and then I just don't. Because I usually am like, okay, next we're going to talk about this. And then your segue will be about one of the other topics, and I'm like, can't do that.
Sorry, go ahead.
So anyway, so it's day 2 of the draft. The Cubs are busy. Apparently the market inefficiency this year, short guys who've had Tommy John disease but throw really hard. College, and they have to be college pitchers because they've taken, out of the 10 guys, I believe they've drafted 7 college pitchers, most of whom fit that. 6 foot tall, throws hard, probably going to end up in the bullpen. It's great. But part of the reason they have to keep drafting a huge inventory of pitchers is that the Epstein, Hoyer, McLeod regime has been drafting now since 2012.
Isn't that crazy?
In that time, they have drafted before this year, they had drafted 150 pitchers.
Uh-huh.
There are currently none of them on their 25-man roster.
I thought this was going to be a good name. How many of them?
Well, we could have been. Well, what I do have, thanks to my Twitter feed and Joe, who was the other reason I know Joe is that he's the other Pat Benkowski fan on Twitter. So John Greenberg will, whenever something extra weird shows up on Benkowski's YouTube feed, he will tweet both of us so we see it. But anyway, he did the actual research. It gets even worse than the fact that 150 Cub draft pitching draftees over the last, 8 drafts now. I guess we'll just worry about the 7 that are done. And none are on the 25-man roster. How many of them do you think have pitched even a single inning for the Cubs?
Okay. Now,
you know this, right?
Does this count guys that have come up and seen 18 to 25 batters and never recorded an out?
Oh, that's true. That could be the flaw.
Like that's
all those guys with their infinity ERAs.
Exactly. I'm going to this. I don't know that I necessarily read this follow-up tweet, but I am going to guess by the tone of your voice, 0.
Nope, there have actually been some.
Okay,
but there have not been many.
Let's say,
and when you hear the names, you'll be like, "Oh."
7.
Okay, there've been 4.
Okay,
they are.
Oh boy.
And they have 4 have combined for a total of 52 innings.
Okay.
Ever. They are Rob Zastryzny with most of the innings.
Yeah.
35.
Yeah.
James Norwood with 12. Yeah. He's on the 40-man roster right now. So, hey, way to go.
Okay.
Dwayne Underwood.
Okay.
With 4.
Okay.
And, he didn't list the other one.
And Sergio Mitre.
Yeah, that's right. Well, everybody was guessing on Twitter, Dylan Maples. He's a Hendry guy. He's not. He was already there.
Holy shit.
He got drafted in 2011.
Way to take your fucking time, Dylan.
Yes, he's been wallowing in the minors. So there have also been...
Wait, you don't know
No, he only listed 3.
Oh,
Rob Z, James Norwood,
how do you know there's 4
Underwood.
then?
I don't know how you could miss another one. Well, does it add up right?
How do you know there's 4?
Because he said 4 Cub draft picks have pitched 52 innings.
Underwood.
Rob Z, 35. James Underwood, 12. So there's 47. Dwayne Underwood, 4. Somebody pitched 1 inning, and he forgot to list him. Now, who is it? Who's the mystery man?
Okay, wait.
Oh, gotta.
Let me see if I can do this.
Okay, while you're doing that, I have to tweet out a Kyle Schwarber because he just hit a very long home run.
Oh, I'm on delay, so thanks for the spoiler. Hey, can you tell me how Game of Thrones ended?
I can, yeah.
Oh, I'm excited for this now. I'm also have this on the side of me.
That's very exciting.
Okay. I don't
so
even
there's
know
somebody. So there's one. I can't. Now it bothers. I wish I had actually done the research before. I could have found out who that one guy is.
Okay. Oh yeah, that is a long home run. Okay. What do you? Oh, Dolan, this will be an evolution for us. We're actually going to hear you talk about a tweet that you're writing right now.
There, I referenced the podcast in the tweet.
Oh, good.
Multifaceted. Oh, but then I lost the other one. Shit.
Okay. Anyhow.
Okay, so just. Oh, I got it. Okay, so I don't know who that other one is. That's bad.
Well, he only pitched one inning.
All right, let's make this interactive. If you know who the one is, and you're right, just
you get to take Kyle's spots.
No, I was going to say John Greenberg will send you a copy of his book.
Oh, that's a good call.
Yeah.
Let's say
the first 400 people. The first 400 people who get it right and contact us. You actually, you know what? Don't contact us. Just send a tweet to John Greenberg. And he will, and the first 400 of you who know who that one other pitcher is who pitched an inning for the Cubs. So somebody drafted between 2012 and now, pitched one inning for the Cubs. The first 400 people who get that right, John Greenberg will send you a copy of his book.
Also, you are not allowed to have any reference in this tweet. You just have to have the name of the pitcher.
If you explain why you're sending it to him, you're disqualified.
You're automatically disqualified.
All you need is the name and then your address, which I'm sure you have no problem tweeting out. What bad thing could possibly happen? Okay,
for the dumbs that listen to our podcast, which is most of you, just to be super clear,
okay, do not kill yourself. Don't actually tweet your address out.
Don't kill yourself. Bring a baseball glove to games, and do not tweet your home address.
Don't tweet personal information out onto the internet. We're like we're basically just one big public service announcement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we know 3 and 1 fandom, one who pitched for the Cubs. There have been 4 Cub draft picks who've gone on to pitch for other teams. Oh, never mind. He didn't get it wrong. I didn't read the tweet well enough. I know who the 4th pitcher is.
Oh no.
And he's a former Notre Dame player.
Not Samardzija.
Nope. His name is something that sounds really painful.
Scrotum contusion.
Close. Pierce Johnson.
Oh, that was pretty good.
I'm going to interrupt the podcast while I check out the stuff that my wife has mitered.
There
you go, America. That's pretty good. That's very nice.
Great. Good job, Barry.
There's your corner. No. Oh, okay. Well, that's the same thing. Yeah,
so wait a minute, Dolan. Are you saying that you misread the tweet, or
I misread the tweet? He included Pierce in the second part because Pierce has also pitched for other teams.
Oh, so he's saying those were exclusive Cub pitchers. So Pierce pitched 1 inning for the Cubs. Just for the listening listeners, Andy is playing with 2 pieces of wood. I totally lost him on this. I'm trying to rein him back in, and I'm doing the best that I can. So the first 4 guys or 3 guys had been solely pitched for the Cubs, and he didn't include Pierce because Pierce had pitched for the Cubs.
Yes, he was listed in the second part of the tweet.
Another team,
and I didn't read it.
Oh.
Because it says down here, it lists the guys, and then Pierce Johnson, 44 total, 1 for the Cubs, 43 for somebody else. So now that solved that mystery. So now nobody can win any of the Greenberg. Actually, everybody just send tweets that say Pierce Johnson, John Greenberg. He'll send you a free copy of the book.
So I don't remember Pierce Johnson either at Notre Dame or on the Cubs. And I went to Notre Dame, and I've watched a lot of Cubs.
Well, they only pitched 1 inning for the Cubs.
Well, but still. You'd think I would think, oh, neat, they drafted an unranked guy.
He came pre-injured, I'm pretty sure, if I remember right. As you know. Okay, so they're including Pierce, 4 guys who pitch for other teams. I'm gonna guess you aren't going to get any of these.
I can guarantee you that. So
I would just give them to you.
Yeah. Unless. Well,
let's do this. I'll ask you a question about it. Those 4. So the Cub pitchers combined for 52 innings. The Cub pitchers they traded away or let go in some cases
for 6,000 innings.
Well, did they? What do you think? Did more or less than 400 innings?
Ooh, there's 4 of them.
4 of them,
including Pierce Johnson's 40.
Including Pierce Johnson's 43.
I'm gonna say more than
662.
Pretty good. Oh, so close to Satan.
So most of those are Zach Godley of the Diamondbacks, who they traded. Who do you think they got for Zach Godley?
Miguel Montero.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So that worked out just fine.
Yeah. He hit
a couple of pretty important hits. The only 2 hits he got in the 2016 playoffs.
Super important.
Yeah, grand slam against the Dodgers, the one that actually drove in the winning run.
That was such a great moment and I always like Miggy seemed like kind of a red ass, but for a guy that probably had a lot of pride, he could have taken that demotion a lot worse, and it was awesome that he was actually able to contribute in 2016. So thank you, Miguel.
Yes, and then 2017 he managed to
burn in hell,
thrown off the team in Washington. Everybody on the plane, Miguel. Just a second.
Here's your bus ticket.
We will send you your stuff. So that's Zach Godley. He's pitched 494 innings for the Diamondbacks. He's pretty good. Okay. Paul Blackburn, 86 innings. The aforementioned Pierce Johnson. And my favorite, he's a Cardinal, but he's constantly looking for the fountain of youth, Daniel Ponce de Leon, who I believe they drafted but did not ever sign.
Those are actually some great. Maybe they were just drafting cool names.
Yeah, probably.
Pierce Johnson, that was Blackburn, Godley.
This year, short guys, Tommy John injuries who throw hard. One year, apparently, it was guys who you would name your fantasy team after.
Were you not paying
Godley.
attention? Were you not paying attention to the guy that tweeted at you that short guys that throw hard never get injured?
Yeah, but I don't think he meant it. I believe that was a joke.
Oh, okay, good. I
believe he was saying because they always get injured.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't tell if I can never tell when people are attacking you if they're joking or not.
I just assume because my Twitter followers are such a happy bunch.
That's true.
That if something is mean, it's just sarcastic.
That's true.
I take it as such.
You know why your Twitter followers are also happy? Because all of them have been banned from Bleed Cubby Blue.
Yeah, I mean when they
don't have to deal with that every day.
When you have that taken off your shoulders. Life's pretty good.
Cool. All right. So we now we're gonna run through every draft in every draft pick.
I think let's just run all 150 of them, starting with whoever. It was funny though when I was making fun of the fact that they, when they made the pick last night, their first round draft pick, who you'd think I would have his name written down, but I didn't bother.
Right. Kent Jensen, is that
the coverage on MLB Network, which actually would be pretty good if they would finally get rid of Harold Reynolds at some point. I mean, Harold doesn't really have a firm grasp of Major League Baseball. Putting him at the draft table,
he has a firm grasp of interns, though. If you know
in Boston market parking lots. That's my favorite part of that story. Where it was.
Sorry, go ahead. Harold does not have a firm grasp of Major League Baseball.
So anyway, the Cubs pick 27th. They make the pick, and Greg Amsinger looks at the Jim Callis and whoever their other draft expert was, and they're like, "Where did you guys have this guy ranked?" Yeah, Digger Phelps. Digger's like, "Screw it, I can't find the right color highlighter." And he's looking around for it. He's looking at his tie. He's trying to match it. It was Jay Billis, and Jay said, this guy, his wingspan is not nearly long enough. He was horrified by it.
Look at me making basketball references. You're welcome, podcast world.
Well, it is the NBA Finals.
Yeah, that's true. Who's in it again? Warriors.
One American team.
Yeah, Warriors Raptors, right?
Yeah. The Canadians can't send a hockey team down to play in the Stanley Cup final, but they can send one to the NBA finals. I don't think so.
Yeah.
No wonder we had to put those tariffs on.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Amsinger looks at the guys like, where'd you have this guy ranked? One guy's like, I had him 99th. And the other guy, I had him 109th.
That's better than I have him UR. Like you're going to get ranked later, you mean? No, unranked.
So I tweeted. I don't even want to talk about tweeting. I tweeted, "Don't worry, guys. This is fine. Given the great track record this Cub regime has of drafting pitchers, I think we just give them the benefit of the doubt." And I got a bunch of people who sent me very indignant. What about Dylan Cease? I'm like, okay, A, he hasn't pitched above Double A yet.
Yeah,
and B, he's not a Cub anymore, so I don't really care.
So, Dylan, I don't know if you've heard this story before, but let me tell you a little story about a Hall of Fame catcher that was drafted by the Mets, by the Dodgers in the mid '80s, and his
Paul LaDuca.
What was he? His godfather, or was it actually his uncle, or whatever? Lasorda was Piazza's uncle, and he's like he really stepped up for Piazza and drafted him like 270 or something.
It's like the 61st round or some shit.
Exactly. And he took him, and he like banked his career on eating pasta, and then drinking Weight Watchers and drafting or convincing someone to draft Mike Piazza.
Just bragging to everyone.
Yeah.
That he was the only reason that they took Mike Piazza.
That's like when you tweet something super vague, like, and frankly, I think it was 2015 that Hayward went off in the Cardinals series, the playoffs. I assume. I don't remember. Anyhow, I tweeted something out. I'm like, I feel like Hayward's gonna go off this series, and Hayward just happened to go. I had no reason to say that. Hayward happened to go off that series, and it was goddamn glorious. And then everyone was tweeting back at me like, "Oh my god, you called it!" I'm like, you guys, no one would remember that tweet if Hayward didn't actually go off. So I feel like that's kind of what Lasorda did with Piazza. For the listeners, again, Dolan has been distracted by his wife.
Being asked woodworking questions.
Is he woodworking just off camera with you?
I married Norm Abrams from this.
Ask Barry if she can make a soundproof, like a podcast.
We should just make it. We should make it part of the podcast.
Baez just hit a bomb. Well, he probably hit a bomb a little while ago for you.
He did. I didn't want to give that away.
Thank you so much. Exit velocity 107.6 miles an hour. So please feel free to jump in front of that, in front of your kid, to stop that with your chest.
It shouldn't tilt at all. It should be.
Why don't you just
set it straight?
Just get Barry on mic at this point. So right now the Cubs are leading the Rockies 5-2, and I do have the informal implied consent of Major League Baseball to give you guys score updates. Hey, I'm just going to talk about how cool it is. Dolan has now removed his headset, and I don't think I've ever been on this podcast by myself. So let's talk a little bit about Carlos Gonzalez's diving catch toward the very Jim Edmonds-esque diving away from home plate. Did the Cubs sign Starlin Castro, by the way, as a bat boy? I'm gonna have to ask Dolan.
Sorry about that. It was Woodworker's Corner. That's good. That'll be its own podcast.
I filled it with go back on your DVR and tell me if the Cubs signed Starlin Castro as a bat boy. Have you seen this kid? Go back on your DVR. So I was talking a little bit while you were gone, Dolan, about Carlos Gonzalez's straight up Jim Edmonds-esque diving catch away from the field. And also, I don't really like how Dolan, you got to it. Doesn't it look like Castro? I don't.
It's not the bat boy.
What's that?
Expendable.
Well, Oh, no.
And he does look like Starlin.
He does look like Castro. That's right.
Yeah.
Why was he picking up a bat?
He's an all-purpose.
So, Dylan, I do have a topic now for you.
Okay, good.
Can we? I know we haven't defined what an actual check swing versus a real swing is, and that's fine. Baseball, keep being ambiguous about that. But can we at some point define what a diving catch is? Because what Cargo did was caught the ball and then slid so he wouldn't kill himself running into a brick wall, which is completely valid.
Yes,
but
he had to make the catch at full stride.
Exactly. Totally fine. Great catch. I argue, and I submit to you, Andy, the jury of my peers or superiors, that is not a diving catch. The catch was made, and then he dove to avoid killing himself.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
Speaking of Harold Reynolds, this is actually a thing. When he finished up playing, he was a teammate of Ken Griffey Jr. for a long time in Seattle.
Yeah.
His career ended. He went to go work for ESPN, and apparently this is a real thing. When they would, when Baseball Tonight would show Jim Edmonds highlights of Jim diving, Junior would call Harold at ESPN and yell at him and say,
"That's not
doesn't count if he slows down just to dive," which we all knew that he really did. I just love the fact that it pissed Junior off.
I love Junior is one of those guys that there's like I think McCutchen's going to be my guy of the modern era. One of those guys you just always wanted to be on your team so you could root for him instead of against him. Junior was one of those guys of that era and Tommy was one of those guys where I was like, damn, that's just one of those guys that you just kind of want to
Jim Hendry wanted Jim Tomey for a long time.
Yeah. So did apparently some extramarital partners.
Tomey?
If the rumors are true. Yeah.
Aw, shucks.
Corn-fed. Also, you guys do not tweet that at Jim Tomey. I'm pretty sure he could still pick me up, break me in half, and drink of my spinal fluid. So Carlos González immediately paid huge dividends right off the bat.
Yeah, he's got an RBI double tonight.
And saved a bases clearing, whatever that would have ended up being, a double or triple.
That's a very in their prime Cardinal kind of thing. They would pick up washed up pieces of crap, and miraculously the guy would all of a sudden be good. Now we knew part of theirs was Dave McKay would give him some pills.
Sure. So I'm going to tie the two of these things together. Speaking of Cardinals, so is Cargo the Jim Edmonds of the 2019 Chicago Cubs? Will he have a resurgence in the beautiful, friendly confines of Wrigley Field and find his Ponce de Leon fountain of youth? And
look how this all ties together.
It's almost like I planned this. Yep. I had a lot of time to think.
It didn't go this well in rehearsal.
I just left dead air when you were talking to Barry off mic. I had a lot of time to think. So
she looks at me like, "Are you on?" No, I'm sitting here with a headset, talking to myself.
I never know that we're on, so I don't blame her for being off mic. So
I think she thinks this isn't a real podcast. I sit down here and talk to myself.
I mean, let's be honest, it's not.
That's true.
So I'll just call it right here, and then no one will remember this. And if it's true, I will tweet this out and point out how brilliant I am. And if it doesn't happen, but I'll say Cargo is the Cargo of the Astros when he was instrumental for them, and all of a sudden was great. But he's the Jim Edmonds for the Cubs this year.
Rockies, not the Astros.
No, wasn't it Cargo? Oh, I'm thinking of Beltran. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's a little older.
That's a while ago.
I would say that because Cargo is only 33.
He was not there in 04.
No, but I think he should have a better chance of being productive than Edmonds did, Gary Gaetti did. I mean, the Cubs have lucked into it a couple of times in playoff teams. He's basically Chris Coughlin.
I bet
only good.
I bet Edmonds is still available. I think his St. Louis restaurant fell apart when he signed with the Cubs.
So you mentioned Andrew McCutchen. Did you see what happened to him last night?
Yes. What a terrible.
But the weird thing about it was it was Gene Segura's fault.
Yeah.
And it really was Gene.
He didn't run the goddamn ball out.
He had a pop-up and he slipped and he fell down, so then he didn't run. And Ian Kinsler sniffed it out, let the ball drop.
Smart play.
So they ended up with McCutchen in a rundown, and he tried to avoid the tag, and he blew out. It tore his ACL. He's done for the year.
Oh, I didn't see what the follow-up was. I just saw the play.
Yeah, he's gone.
That's a shame. One of my favorites. So that means the Cubs can pick him up off the scrap heap, and McCutchen, I'm calling it right now, McCutchen will be a starting center fielder next year, and Cargo will be your starting left fielder.
So much for the youth movement.
Well, they're going to get very young because all those guys that you mentioned in the drafts are all going to come back and pitch for the Cubs. So it'll even out eventually in the wash.
This will mean nothing because it's nobody will hear this live, but I don't think the Brewers are coming back tonight. In the 7th inning they trailed the Marlins 15-0.
So is this going to be one of these things where people tweeted us, will that podcast age well when they come back and score like 25 runs in the 8th and 9th?
Yep. Remember that night when Christian Yelich hit 6 home runs in the same inning?
Yeah.
No, I don't, because I avoided it.
I'm sure I've done that before, Twitter, and you could probably find me doing that somewhere, but that's enough of that. That aged well. We get it.
Old takes exposed.
Exactly.
My favorite is when somebody will actually, I'll tweet something and someone will immediately tag it, old takes exposed, because they're so sure that it's going to be horribly wrong that they want it on record immediately. That's not how that works. You're supposed to actually put in the effort to go back and find
it. Remember
you
it.
can't preload these. That doesn't count.
Well,
Pedro Strop is back.
Oh, good.
Just very exciting.
No one called me.
And they sent the great Dylan Maples back to Iowa. And Joe said he had a heart-to-heart with Dylan, and he said, this is the last time I want to be sending you to Iowa. Which if I was Dylan, I'd be like, I'm being released? He said, no, because when you come back, you need to come back for good, because you're too good to keep going back and forth.
That made me very nervous when you said that Joe had a heart I thought you were going to say like a heart condition. I was like, oh no.
That's the reason you saw Max Venable. He has to be the bat boy, the first base coach, and the manager. Because Joe died.
That is how little I've actually watched them on television this year. Sorry, Venable. I respect your work.
He's a handsome man. If you like Starlin Castro.
Yeah.
Because they're twins. I don't know why I didn't think of that immediately when he said there's a bad boy that looks just like. It was funny though. The year
he looked very young, to be fair.
So in 2003, I worked for the Beloit Snappers, and we had one of the bat boys he's probably 12 years old, but he was like 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, and so it looked like there was. It looked like a grown man was the bat boy, and the announcers for the other teams would always comment whenever he was the bat boy. It's like, do you have a grown up as the bat boy? Like, no, he's 10. We always joked about our enormous bat boy, and that was it. Always made me think of Mark McGuire's kid during the home run.
Oh God.
Because they bring that enormous kid would come out of the dugout to hug Daddy.
Every time he walked out of the dugout, I would turn to Ray Stantz and be like, "What did you do, Ray?" Like, I couldn't help it. It just popped in there. And then McGuire's kid comes walking out, like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. In case anyone didn't get that reference at that point, I just want to make super clear that that's what I was doing. I do want to say, I know that that's also a fish, but are the Beloit Snappers aware of the Urban Dictionary definition of?
Oh, I believe they were completely aware of it. They'd been the Beloit Brewers forever, and Beloit Turtle Creek runs through Beloit, and so does the Rock River, but they didn't bother to name it after the Rock River. So they pick snappers. They do have a Snappy, the snapper, their turtle mascot he's kind of ridiculous looking and actually cute. So they sold a lot of merch because of the mascot, but then anything that actually had snappers on it also sold big. It was just like Oregon State selling all that crap because they would just put beavers on everything.
Yeah,
and
or the
frat
cock.
boys would think that was the funniest thing ever. So yes, it was not an accident that they were the snappers.
Okay. Just wanted to double check. I want to make sure everyone is not saying something they don't want to say.
No. The Wisconsin Timber Rattlers, who were in Appleton, they used to be the Foxes, for a month this year to honor America's dairy farmers. They're changing their nickname and their logo. Their logo is going to be a dairy cow, and they're going to be the
Teats
Udder Tuggers.
No, they're not.
That's a real thing.
That's incredible.
They're going to be the Wisconsin Udder Tuggers.
Oh, God bless this country.
Yeah.
Udder Tuggers.
The Udder Tuggers. So
nice.
There you go.
Oh,
seems like a good thing to end on.
Yeah, seems like everyone go out there and get your Udder Tuggers gear before it becomes too big to be popular.
Yes. So presumably Kyle will be back next week. He's actually at the game tonight.
Oh yeah.
Ironic that you have to miss the podcast to actually go see the team that we talk about in person, but he did.
Yeah, I'm on the podcast and I never watched this team.
I didn't see a lot of the Cardinal series, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't.
Yeah, I saw what was going on Sunday. I had some stuff to do, but then I saw what was going on. I was like, maybe I won't turn it on.
I didn't want to watch because Yachty wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And if Yachty's not around, and Yachty's going to miss the series this weekend too, so that's too bad.
I don't want to miss history in the making watching the greatest catcher of all time.
The history I want to see made, and I think it could happen. I want to see him get thrown out at first base from left field because I think it can happen.
I bet that could happen.
Like Schwarber, if anybody could do it, I think Kyle can do it. All right, so we will be back next week.
Oh, can I talk about one other weird play?
Of course.
With zero detail, but just the recollection.
Oh, good. It's even better.
Did you see the play where I don't know who shortstop it was? Someone fired home with no catcher at home plate.
No.
Do you remember that, or did you see that?
Was that happened last week?
No, it just happened. Wait, hang on. Throw home no catcher. This will help.
Did that remind you of the time?
It was the Mariners. It's the Mariners. Dylan Moore. So there was a guy on third, a guy on I think it was first and third. Yeah, one out, runners on first and third. Pretty. It was so like I guess it was the Astros at the plate. Hit a slow grounder to Seattle shortstop Dylan Moore. I'm partially reading this, and he charges in, fields it. The catcher thinks he's going to go for the double play, so runs to back up home. Narvaez, I guess. I kept thinking they were saying Baez on the replay. Goes to back up first, and Moore just fires a perfect strike to home, but there's literally no one at home. It was pretty funny.
There was a runner at third?
Yeah, first and third.
Does the catcher really?
He shouldn't have done
back up first base with third base occupied.
No,
that seems like that was his fault.
For sure, it was. Like even no matter what, even if he assumed that they were going for the double play, that was any catcher. I'm sure would tell you that was.
I don't think you should leave home plate unoccupied. Unless there's plenty of time to get back there. Perhaps when there's no one on base and you're just backing up first. Yikes.
I don't think you should ever leave home plate unoccupied unless you are Hobby.
Well, yeah, Hobby could have thrown it and Bugs Bunny, he would have caught it and tagged the guy out.
Exactly. It wouldn't have mattered. He could have, I guarantee Hobby could have outrun that guy to home plate. But so it's a very funny looking play. And I love when Len and especially Jim Deshaies, because I know he's got longer in around baseball. God bless Len too. But I love when those guys say something like, I don't think I've ever seen that in baseball. And I feel like there's been a higher rate of instance of that happening this year. Not necessarily just with the Cubs, but like a lot of weird kind of hilarious, cool stuff is happening with the just baseball, just neat things that, like when they had 4 infielders on the right side of second base. They had, I don't even remember which game it was, but like just stuff that's like, oh shit, this is neat.
Well, when Pat Hughes says he has never seen that before,
that's
something. And it also, Zach Zaidman finds it hilarious.
Okay, I interrupted our ending. I'm sorry.
All right.
I love you.
Gotta go. See you next week.
Yeah, we'll be back.